Okay, so now that we're done with putting all of our ties on our wreath base, now what I want to do before I add the bow is I want to add the sign. So what I've done with the sign here is I have actually taken the cable mounts that I provided to you, and I've used some DAP glue, which is just like a super glue. It's a wrap infused glue. You could use Gorilla Glue as well, and 2 twist ties or pipe cleaners. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the wreath, and I want to be able to place this where I've got brackets. So I'm looking to see where the brackets are underneath the mesh, and I'm just going to feed the pipe cleaner through to the bracket and then tie it around. And I'm putting the sign on before I make the bows or put the bows on, because this is the focal point of my wreath and the bows are just the accessory. So, and I've decided that the way I'm going to build this wreath is that I want my sign to be at the top. Okay, and now I'm just working on the other side, and I'm adding the pipe cleaners in here as well. For me, this is the hardest part. Okay. So you'll see that this is how my sign sits on my wreath. I'm just twisting it on the back here. And it's not going to go anywhere. I can pick up my wreath with my sign. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make a bow using the leftover ribbon that we have. So in what it is that I provided to you, you still have 9 feet of ribbon left. And what I've done is I have taken them so that we can make a bow like this. Okay, so this is we're going to be able to make several of these bows to be able to attach to our wreath. So what I've done is I've cut the remaining 9 feet into 2 feet lengths, which means I have an extra foot left over. But each bow that we create is going to have 1 piece of each ribbon. And then I'm also I've taken a pipe cleaner and I've cut it in half. And that's what we're going to use to seal the bow or connect the bow or the ribbons and then attach it to the base of the wreath. Now for this, you don't have to use a bow maker. I've got an easy bow and I've got a bowdabra. For me, it's easier for me to use a bowdabra, so I'm going to do that. However, this could be used, you could do this in your hands as well. And what I'm doing is I'm taking the ribbons, and again, it doesn't matter which order you do it in. I'm going to start with the blue one for this bow, and I'm deciding how big I want the loop of my bow to be. And so I think I want my loop to be about that large. So what I'm doing is I'm pinching this, and then I need to make the tails the same way, based the same way. So I'm taking the back one and I'm flipping it forward. All right, so this gives me a loop and 2 tails. And what I'm going to use my bowdabra for is just to hold it. All right, so again, you can use chip clips, you can use a clothespin, you can use your hands if you have the dexterity to do that. You don't have to have a bow maker to be able to hold your ribbon. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing with my next ribbon. And again, it doesn't have to be the 2.5 inch. That's just how I'm building this bow. And I've got my front one facing forward, my front tail, and then I'm just twisting the back tail so that it faces forward. And then I'm going to stick it in my holder. And this also allows me to kind of see how I'm putting it together. Okay, but again, I want both of these tails to be facing up. Then I'm going to take my next ribbon, decide how long I would like the loop for that to be, pinch it in the middle. I'm going to open the loop up a little bit. Make sure that both of my tails are facing the right direction. You'll see that this bottom one is backwards. So again, I'm just taking it and literally just twisting it. And then I'm going to put it in the bowdabra so that the loop is on the side opposite of the loop that I just put in. And then I'm going to put my last piece in and do the same thing. Again, decide how long I would like that loop to be. Pinch it in the middle. Make sure that the pretty side is up on both. So I need to flip the back one to make it pretty. Make sure that loop is open. Just kind of measuring, eyeballing it to see it, make sure they're about the same size. And then I'm putting it on the opposite direction and I'm going to pull my tails around, or pull them out. Okay, then I'm going to take my half a pipe cleaner that I have, and I'm going to take these 4 pieces of ribbon and pull them up and hold them together like this. And then I'm taking my pipe cleaner and I'm going to pinch it around what I've got, around my ribbon, so that I have just enough to twist. Okay, and so you can see here that I've got a little piece and then I've got my longer piece, and I'm going to twist, and then I'm going to twist the ribbon. That makes for a tighter ribbon bow. And then I'm going to take my tails and my loops and spread them out, curl them and fluff them and pull them around so that they're sitting where it is that I want them to sit. Now I'm not going to cut, my tails are kind of long right now, and I'm not going to cut them until I actually get the bow on the wreath. So again, I've got my full length pipe cleaner. I'm just going to cut it in half. And then I'm going to take, and I like to do the thicker ribbons on the bottom, but again, it doesn't matter. You can do it however you'd like. I'm going to scrunch it. Make sure the pretty side is facing me on both tails, so flipping the bottom and then putting it in my holder. Like I said, if you have a chip clip or a clothespin or something else, or if you can hold it in your hand, you can do that. I'm just using this as an aid for me to help me hold my ribbon. And then I'm going to take my next piece, do the same thing. And then I'm putting the loop on the opposite side of the one that I just placed. So I've got my 4 loops in, got my tail spread apart, all facing up, taking the half of the pipe cleaner that I've got, lifting my 4 pieces of ribbon, and then folding it about a third, again, so I can grab it on both sides, and then I'm going to twist the ribbon. I've got a nice secure bow. And then I'm going to pull up my loops and move my tails around. Just kind of pulling on the ribbon, curling it a little bit, kind of like a hairstylist would do with when they're pulling hair up to cut. Just run my fingers through it a little bit. And I've got a loop that is hidden, so I want the loop to come back out. Loop to come out, which means I want my tail over here. Okay. And then I still have enough to be able to get that onto my wreath. Okay, so now for the last one. I've lost 2 feet of my ribbon. Where have I put it? Oh, I put it on my side table. There it is. Okay. So here we go. Last one. And bows like this are great if you are not a natural bow maker. There are some people that just have a super talent for making bows. Unfortunately, I am not one of them. So creating a bow like this is helpful to me. Think about how I did the other ones. I'm going to be in a similar fashion. So again, I'm just got the loop, making the pretty sides up, and putting the loop the opposite direction of the one that I just laid. Then I'll do the same thing with my last ribbon. A little bit, twist it. Lay it opposite, pull the 4 ribbons out, take my little twist tie, my pipe cleaner, my chenille stem, whatever it is that you call them, enough to be able to wrap around the ribbons, bringing the 2 pieces together, and then twisting the ribbon so that I get a nice secure twist. Last little piece of separation, and I will add them to the wreath. where I can then fluff it some more. Okay, so I've got the 4 ribbon or the 4 bows made, and now I'm ready to place it on the base of the wreath. Okay, so I wanted my sign to be at the top. So what I'm going to do is, since that happens to be at like noon, if this was 4 o'clock, I'm going to want to be able to put 4 along the bottom here. Okay, so I'm taking my piece of chenille stem and I'm feeling for one of those crossbars because I want to be able to wrap the chenille stem around the crossbar without pulling the bow too deeply into the mesh. So I'm just going to try to wrap it around 3 or 4 times. Make sure that it's securely attached. I'll take my next bow. And I'm going to put it across. Again, looking for that bracket. Just feeling my way through the mesh. Sometimes you have to feed the chenille stem through the mesh to get to the bracket. And that's okay if you have to do that. Got it through the bracket, and now I'm going to try to, uh-oh, I lost it. Where'd it go? Twist that around so that it doesn't move. Now when you're doing this, if you can't find an actual bracket on the wreath itself, you can use the chenille stem that we used on the top half for our woodland ruffle, and just wrap the base of the chenille stem around that. We're just looking for a way to be able to kind of keep it more secure. Okay, now that I have this one in, I see that one's placed really well, and I want this bow to face in a little bit more. So where I've got it tied on the bracket, I want to move it in more towards the inside of the bracket versus the outside. So I'm feeling for my chenille stem on the bow. I'm just going to undo it real quick and place it more towards the center. Moved it over a little bit. I'll move it up a little bit too. Maybe I'll move it up a little. Still reach the bracket. For me, adding the signs and the bows are the hardest part because I'm not seeing what I'm doing. I'm doing it all by touch, and and the reason I'm not turning my wreath over is because I don't want to smush the bows. I already spend enough time fluffing them. I don't want to have to make them flatter and then have to fluff some more. Okay. So now I'm ready for this 3rd one. Again, I'm going to probably have to feed it through some mesh because I want it to be near a bracket, and we've determined that it looks best near an inside bracket. Again, I'll try to bring this into the camera frame so you can see kind of what the bow's looking like as I'm adding it. Just wrapping it around the base and the bracket so that it doesn't come loose. Because at some point I'm going to have to pull on it, and I don't want it to come off. Right? I'm going to want to fluff it up and trim some of the tails and make sure that the loops are where I want them to be. Okay, and then I've got room for one more right here. So I'm going to add the last bow that I made. It's right there where the bracket is. And I'm pushing it through, trying to make sure it's on the inside of that straight bracket. I'm going to have to push it through the mesh. And you can see that when I've got it, I can pull it. So you'll know that I've got the right piece of the pipe cleaner. And I am just wrapping it around the base of the wreath. Okay, so now we have our bows attached.